Hello, everybody. Welcome to a new episode of your Frederish Cast. My name's Gary, and here I am once again. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is a absolutely rainy and chilly Saturday morning in which I'm recording this episode to you guys. So I just would like to share that because if you're listening to this episode in a similar weather, you know, well, I could only give you my word of advice to go grab a cup of coffee, not beer, not now, maybe later, but not at this specific moment, because A, it's too early for alcoholic drinks, and second, because it's too chilly for cold drinks. So go grab a cup of coffee or hot chocolate and just join me into this pretty interesting and I would say curious, and more than that, I would say important conversation. Yes, we're finally talking specifically about social medias. I know I have already approached this topic before while talking about the internet, technology, and things like that. But today I'll be more specific. I'll talk only about the social medias. Yeah, Facebook, Orkut, if you're old enough to remember, and even YouTube for that matter. But basically, of course, the ones that allow a direct interaction with your friends, colleagues, and more than that, people you never saw before. And then next thing you know, you guys are hanging out together, are dating, are best friends, or have established a fan idol relationship. Yeah, these are, if you're older than me, if you're as old as I am, these are the crazy and hard to explain days brought to you by social medias, by Mr. Zuckerberg and who else? Yeah, basically pretty much Mark Zuckerberg. I think he's basically the father figure of social media, I would say, of course, because through Facebook, yeah. I know today we got many more options, but I know Mark wasn't the first, literally, to start in this, but he was one of the first, and of course the most preeminent name out there. And when we talk about social medias, so without any further ado, let's just do it. Come with me, and let's do it. Thank you. So now I'm talking specifically Facebook times, Instagram times. Why not YouTube in terms of the influence thing? You know, like you have a place to upload videos and talk to people, to your quote unquote fans, right? That's what many people have become in the past decade, in the past 15 years. But what was it like? No, what I don't see people talking about, it was the different impact that the arrival of social medias had over the different generations. Let me be more specific. I'm a millennial. I'm 35 years old. So, it was like natural, because when this whole thing of social media started coming around, the internet getting popular, I was like 14, 15 years old. So it was this transition for my generation, for people close my age or close enough. It was almost natural, you know, not as natural as for the Zoomers, for the Gen Z people out there, but it was like pretty natural, I would say. But what I couldn't ignore when all this started happening was the impact over the older generations, okay, the X generation, and even the boomers, as they say, right, the older generation, our grandparents, my grandparents, probably your great grandparents, maybe, I don't know. Of course, my grandparents' generation still isn't connected to social medias, obviously. But I got my grandma on Facebook. Yeah, probably your sister or one of your cousins who signed her up, and she doesn't even know that, or maybe doesn't even know her name. Joking. So the Gen X, our parents, my parents, it is interesting because all of them came around, all of them signed up to social media and stuff. But truth of the matter is that they don't use it very much, do they? It's not something that, as I said, my dad himself was kind of a pioneer in this thing, but I understand that as when I say a pioneer, I mean like in 2000, talking to people on wall chat rooms and MSN, chatting with people. But I never saw him so much active, and truth of the matter, his peers, quote unquote, peers, people his age, people of his generation, so active in terms of posting things, They are. I know you have an uncle or your mom or your dad who's been constantly posting things like good morning, Jesus bless your week, or things of politics, or things like that. Okay, but it's different when I say active, I mean posting personal things. That's my point, Like, hey, I think this, that, this happened, this is going on to me. Hey, this is a trip I took a few days ago. This is something I'm doing at my house. Blah, blah, blah. This thing, personal pictures. You don't see much of it coming from that generation. Of course, there are exceptions. Yeah, there are, But to put it in a nutshell, the Gen X generation, our parents, aka our parents, some of them did pretty well with the social medias, and some of them didn't do a good job with that, basically. They all do have social medias, mostly, but I would separate into these two groups, two distinct groups. What do you think? Does it make sense? Yeah, I have this view of this scenario. But our generation, my generation, millennial, the Y generation, the millennials, we are pretty active on social media, but not as active as the Z generation, okay? The Zoomers. I'm gonna refer to them as Zoomers from now on. It's easier, okay? Zoomers are pretty active. They post everything from a coffee that they drink, to a trip that they take, to a Christmas dinner with family, This is so more common, right? But it all leads me to my next question. What were the biggest changes, in fact, okay? And to answer that question that I asked myself, and indirectly or directly I'm asking you to think of it, I would answer to that question with 3 points, three big differences, changes that I observed in the past 15 years. Number one, making friends and being social. Number two, dating/flirting. And 3, being famous, okay? So what were the biggest changes with the making friends and being social? Yeah, it's probably no news to you that before social medias, it was harder to know people, okay? Maybe it was easier to be friends with people, to make more solid friendships, but it was literally harder to make people, Or maybe you would just meet people and never saw them again. Today you meet people and then you add them to your social medias, you start following each other, and 6 years later, no other contact has been done, and you're still liking each other, liking each other's pictures and posts, interacting with each other through message, or not even that. We're just like, oh, I that's this guy, I met him that day. I went to that place 5 years ago. Oh, there he is. Let me just put a heart in his or her message or post here. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, this is the dynamic that, in my opinion, has been crucially changed over the past 15 years. The thing with dating and flirting, while this is perhaps the most sensitive part of it, Because flirting and dating before social media was way harder. Okay, was way harder than it is today. Okay, you literally had to step up, especially if you're a man. Maybe some girls would do that too, but of course, mostly men do that. You would have to walk up to a girl and just pull out a pickup line, okay, and see what that would be. You see the outcome of that. You know, there were lots of rejections, of course. And you could say, hey, but we are rejected today. Yeah, you are, but it's different when you're rejected over a text. You know, when you're rejected face to face, it's harder, right? It's not the end of the world, of course, but it is harder, you know. So that's why I say dating and flirting was harder. And there was one thing that people are talking about on the internet. It's kind of controversial, but I tend to agree. I mean, I don't agree 100%, but like there's a sense there. The fact that girls are more exposed to pictures on social medias, and the times are different in terms of sexy pictures. You know, like 20 years ago, even on Orkut, it wasn't so common for girls as it is today to post a picture wearing a bikini, for example, a pretty small bikini. It wasn't so common. Today is like normal. You see a girl like 14, 15 years old doing that sometimes, you know? I'm not judging the reasons behind it. I'm not even saying, hey, and she's doing that because of this and that. I don't know. It's not up to me to say why they're doing. The fact is that they usually do that. People do that more, you know, despite of the age here. It's a thing of the moment, the current moment we're living. But yeah, you know, so by girls getting more exposed, getting their bodies more exposed, of course, they start having more and more male attention, okay? Male attention coming with a, hey, pretty, hey, beautiful, I would marry you, please marry me, I will, let me be your boyfriend, etc., you know? And this, if this were something isolated, something here and there, it wouldn't make any difference. But the problem is that since it's way easier today to quote unquote walk up to a girl in her social media and write a few flirting words, you know, more men do that. Men that would never do that in the real world, in a face-to-face encounter, basically, they do that. So this starts to, I told you guys that was controversial. I'm not even stating that this is 100% true, but there's some sense there in my opinion. It starts getting over the girl's head, you know? And then they start aiming to, they go like, hey, there are like literally 1,000 guys hitting on me, flirting with me here, you know? I'm a top model, you know? I'm a top model. I'm not gonna settle for anything. I'm gonna go after another famous influencer or something like that, you know, or a guy that is extraordinarily good looking. All right, and then this, in my opinion, tends to be dangerous because it creates a plastic atmosphere, for lack of a better definition, in the relationships. So turns out that girls don't want to go out with guys that make more sense, her going out with, you know, like for example, what do I mean by a guy that makes more sense? Well, a girl going out with a guy that studies with her, you know, or her neighbor, for example. I'm not saying that if this neighbor or guy doesn't take care of himself, you know, she should date him just because. Of course not. But good-looking guys, interesting guys, you know, around her, in which her relationship would make sense. No, she starts flirting with the guy, influencer in São Paulo, who is flirting and maybe even dating or going out and doing more things with hundreds of girls out there. Because it's famous. Girls hit on, you know, she's not the only one. Like, go, take a number and get in line, you know? And then there's this circle of I want you, but you don't want me. She wants him, but he doesn't want her, and this is pretty confusing in my opinion. I don't have a absolute opinion about it. Hey, we're gonna destroy our world, and nobody's gonna marry anymore, like some guys online are saying. I don't go that direction, but I tell you that this is pretty confusing and kind of worrisome to a certain level. So I think we can do better than that as humanity, as young people. But that's just my opinion, as I said. And finally, last but not least, the being famous thing. I'm not saying being famous is easy, is something easy, but it's totally easier than it was 20 years ago. Take Justin Bieber, take other famous artists that start on internet, Whindersson Nunes for that matter, so I don't stay in one specific point, one specific career. So there's a singer and there's a YouTuber, a social influencer, comedian, etc. So yeah, this is the difference, one of the biggest differences that changed. And today you can be a kind of a sub-celebrity. We wouldn't see much of the term sub-celebrity 20 years ago. But today there are so many sub-celebrities that it is interesting because these people can take the benefits of being famous and still walk in the streets most of the time without having to worry about being harassed or something like that by fans. But it is also curious how the world has changed. You walk up to a person and then you talk to a person you never saw her before, and then you exchange your social media contact, and he has got 40,000 followers on Instagram. I was like, you were like, wow, it's a normal person right here, working in a normal job. So definitely times have changed because of social medias. As I said, I'm not gonna say for good or for bad. It's positive or negative. Positive in some aspects and negative in others. Just like everything, I would say. Every disruption, every social disruption brings pros and cons, and the social medians aren't any different. So this is what I would like to share with you guys. So I thank you one more time for your lovely company, your usual lovely company. And this is it for this episode. I see you in the next one. Bye.